What are the best business books for entrepreneurs that you should read today? Hi there, my name is Brian Collins. Welcome to the Become a Writer Today channel. I love business books. I've read them on Kindle and listened to them on audiobook. That's because when I started my business, I was surprised to find it started making a little bit of money. But then I started having to pay bills like web hosting and for email marketing software and WordPress themes and so on. So I wanted to figure out how I could pay these bills by building a business and not just working on a side project. And that set me on a path to reading the books that I'm going to profile in this video. So I hope you enjoyed this roundup of some of the best books for entrepreneurs working today. If you do, hit thumbs up. And of course, if you want to get more video profiles like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Number 1, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I'm a big Tim Ferriss fan and I've listened to his podcast for years. I've also read all of his books, including Tools of Titans and Tribe of Mentors. But perhaps his most famous book, which has sold more than 2 million copies and has been translated into 40 different languages, is his first book, The 4-Hour Workweek. The title is a bit of a misnomer. You're not actually going to work a 4-hour workweek if you apply the strategies in this book. And Tim will admit that he wrote this book some 15 plus years ago. So many of the tactics that he describes in the book are a little bit dated. However, the concepts that Tim teaches in this book are applicable as ever for entrepreneurs today. One of my favorite takeaways from Tim is focus on the one decision that will eliminate hundreds of other decisions. If you want to dive into the world of Tim Ferriss, this is probably the book that you're going to start with. Number 2, The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. When I first came across the title for this book, I thought it was some weird business title that related to the internet back in the time of dial-up modems in the early 1990s. It doesn't help that this book was published all the way back in 1985. However, don't be fooled. This book is famous for teaching the concept, don't work in your business, work on it. And in the book, Michael outlines how an entrepreneur or a business owner, and this is just as applicable whatever you're doing today, can play different roles. They can be a manager, whereby they manage other team members. They can be a technician, whereby they work in their business. So in my case, that's writing articles. And they can also be an entrepreneur where they're working on their business, that is figuring out the next steps for what they want to do or what they want to build. The book also explains how you should create systems and processes that you can hand over to your team members, which will free you up to work on a different part of your business or even take time off. And he uses franchises like McDonald's as an example. Instead of wasting thousands of dollars going to business school or studying for an MBA, you could just read this book and it will give you a clear path for what you need to focus on next in your business. The third great book that every entrepreneur should read is actually a famous personal development or self-help book. I guarantee you've heard of it. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Now usually I wouldn't recommend a personal development or a self-help book in a video like this one. But here's the thing. If you can take a little bit of time to work on yourself, to work on your habits, and to work on your goals, then that will feed through into your business. Because after all, how can you figure out what type of business you want to build if you don't know what you're working towards? Suffice to say, the title does kind of give away what the book is about. Covey provides 7 different habits that you should cultivate, which are particularly relevant for entrepreneurs today. The first habit describes that you should be more proactive, especially in difficult areas of your life, or in this case, whatever business you're starting. The second habit describes why you should focus on long-term goals and how to take clear steps towards achieving them. And Covey provides a specific template that you can use to build your business. The third habit, which was particularly relevant to me, helps with prioritizing tasks. Because here's the thing, when you're building a business online, there's always something else that you want to do or some other idea to explore. But how can you figure out what to work on next? Well, with this habit, you'll have a system for just that. The fourth habit relates to negotiations and difficult conversations with people that you're working or collaborating with. And Covey articulates how you can look for the win-win in every difficult situation. The fifth habit basically articulates how you can make yourself understood and how you can also make other people feel like you understand them. This is really important if you're working with customers or you're working with other team members. Habit number 6 goes into great detail about how you can cultivate team working skills. This was a real challenge for me when I started outsourcing and hiring people to help me with my business. And finally, habit number 7 gets into why you should build a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. In other words, don't pay any attention to the work 80-hour weeks and I'll sleep when I'm dead mantras. Instead, you need to find a little bit of time for your business and some time for your family and your other habits and goals and whatever it is you like to do in your personal life. Next up, we have Small Giants by Burlingham. Now, I listened to the audiobook of this particular title a few weeks ago, and it was a fascinating listen. I particularly liked hearing the stories of entrepreneurs and founders who took their business to a certain level. It could have been having several dozen employees or even several hundred employees, and then deciding that they didn't want to go any further. Instead, they prioritized creating a great place to work, or they prioritized creating great products or services, or perhaps simply building a business which enabled them to work in specific industries. If you've ever considered selling your business or wondered how big you want to build your business, then this is a fascinating case study into entrepreneurs who perhaps are further along in that journey and have already faced and overcome these difficult decisions. Now do check out the audiobook because it's actually updated based on some of the case studies Bo features in the earlier edition of the book. I also particularly like the book Traction by Gino Wickman. Now this particular book is probably more suitable for people who are working in larger businesses or perhaps are starting a business with ambitions to get listed on the stock exchange. However, even though I run a small business and have no ambitions to go back working for a corporate company, which I spent several years doing, I did get some interesting takeaways from this book. In particular, Gino explains how to identify the key numbers and metrics that you need to keep track of every week and how to create a scorecard for doing just that. In fact, I figured out that the key numbers for me were publishing a set number of articles on my site Become a Writer Today, and also tracking how many views and how many email subscribers I get from these articles. I put all of this information into a spreadsheet and I review it once a week. Now I have other metrics that I track related to revenue and so on. And the metrics that you'll track will differ depending on what type of business you're starting or working within. But this particular book will help you identify them and track them more easily. The Lean Startup by Ries is another popular business book which is worth checking out. And it's also famous for popularizing the concept of the minimal viable product. Years ago, when the company Dropbox was launching, they created a mock-up video of what their file sharing service would look like. And this mock-up video went viral on all the tech blogs and websites at the time. And they've attracted thousands of interested subscribers and would-be customers. This was enough of a validation for them to go ahead and build the initial version of Dropbox. In other words, they didn't waste millions of dollars and hundreds of man-hours building something that people don't want. Now today, if you're building a business online, you can apply the same concept. In fact, I've done just that. When I'm creating an online course, for example, I'll outline the course notes, I'll outline the course curriculum, and then I'll contact subscribers of my email list to see if they're interested in purchasing the course. If they are interested, I'll go ahead and create a minimum viable version of this course and ask students for feedback and then iterate and improve the course. And if they're not interested, then I won't go ahead and create the course. This way I don't waste time or effort or money creating something that people aren't actually going to buy. If you want to learn all about the concept of the MVP, this is probably the book that you should start with, even though many of the examples pertain to bigger businesses. Entrepreneurship can be a lonely road. Ben Horowitz, the author of The Hard Thing About Hard Things, doesn't pull any punches. He basically dispels any myths people may have about entrepreneurship. It can be a difficult and brutal slog, and he recounts many of the failures and setbacks that he faced at the start of his business career. If you're not familiar with Ben Horowitz, he's built several companies which are subsequently sold, and he's worked at big companies like Oracle, and he's also a partner at Andreessen Horowitz, which is a famous venture capital fund. This book focuses particularly on teamwork. One of the key takeaways I got from this book is that a good entrepreneur or business owner focuses on having the right people in the right seats at the right time. And if somebody's not working out in a particular role, that may be because they've been assigned the wrong responsibilities. If you're thinking about hiring or building a team to support your business, this is a fascinating book to check out. One of my favorite takeaways from this book is when Ben writes, take care of the people, take care of the products, and take care of the profits in that order. I'm also a fan of Jim Collins's books. One of his most famous business books, which every entrepreneur should read, is called Good to Great. And it profiles how a number of big companies transformed themselves from a good business to a great business that stood the test of time. And he's updated this book with some follow-on titles over the years. If you enjoy reading case studies of big businesses, this is one to check out. However, Jim has actually written a short little book which you could read over breakfast or at lunch, and it's called Turning the Flywheel. In this particular book, Jim articulates the concept of trying to get a flywheel to gain momentum. After your first few pushes, you may feel like you're not getting any further, but then slowly, inch by inch, the flywheel begins to move. And eventually it finds a momentum of its own and it can continue to turn without your effort. This is a metaphor that Jim applies to starting and then building a business. If you can figure out what's the flywheel in your business, it can feel like you're making no progress for days, weeks, or months. But once you get that flywheel turning, you can start to build a business that will work even when you're not there. For me, when I started my site and then when I started publishing articles, I felt like I wasn't getting any readers or traffic or earning any money. But then over time, when I started publishing more articles, I noticed a funny thing. Articles I had written 6, 12 and 18 months ago were attracting website traffic and generating ad revenue. And this helped me figure out what the flywheel was for my particular business. And then I found that the articles that I had worked on months ago helped the business gain a momentum of its own. Now, you may not be running a content publishing business like I am, but the concept of a flywheel is key if you want to start something that's going to work without you being physically present the whole time. Of course, there are many more that I couldn't or didn't have time to include in a video like this one. So in the notes below this video, I also have a much longer article where I go into detail about some other business books for entrepreneurs, which you should check out. And of course, if you want to get more videos like this or more book profiles, then don't forget to subscribe to the Become a Writer Today channel.